Welcome to a live 2021 fantasy football mock draft. This is our first mock draft of the 2021 season. And yeah, it looks like we have a full room already. And we're going to start in 1 minute. This is a standard league with 12 teams, standard scoring. And I'm joined by Jacob Camenker from the Sporting News, who's drafting third. Jacob, how are you?
I'm doing good. Like you said, I'm drafting third overall here. I have done not nearly enough fantasy research. I like to go on the first mock kind of blindly, just like go off my gut instincts, see where people land, and then kind of assess my strategy and move from there. So we'll see who I end up getting with the third pick. I know Dylan Federico is picking number 1 overall, so I'll be interested to see what he does. And yeah, then you're in the 8th spot. So how are you doing, and what are you looking to do there?
So this is the first mock draft for me. Obviously I posted my rankings back in February, but this is the first mock draft, and I'm curious to see how it goes. I'm just going to go best player available, no real strategy. I want to see, how the positions look, like what the depth is at each position, and I feel like you learn a lot in every mock draft, especially the first one. So I'm interested to see how this goes. So if you're drafting with us on here, make sure you click play alert notifications and then hide drafted players. I think those are the two best settings. So it looks like Dylan took Alvin Kamara number 1 overall. And what do you think about that?
Yeah, so Dylan actually said in the comments that he was taking Kamara in the comments of our mock draft. He said all the other running backs have major injury concerns. So I can understand it to an extent. My concern with Kamara is without Breeze, will he catch as many checkdowns? We saw with Taysom Hill in the lineup that was a bit of a concern. So that's something that I would be on the lookout for. I'm on the clock now. Somehow Christian McCaffrey is still on the board. Look, I know he's hurt last year. I know he barely played. I know he hurt a lot of fantasy owners because of that. But come on, he's Christian McCaffrey. If he stays healthy on this offense with Sam Darnold away from Adam Gase, hypothetically should be an upgrade. That's a no-brainer to me. Like I was between him and Derrick Henry. I like Henry just because he shoulders the load, and they now have 2 great receivers there. But McCaffrey at 3 is a steal, even though I can kind of understand where Dylan was coming from with Kamara from an injury standpoint.
I've always said that you can't win your mock draft. You can't win your fantasy league in the first round of your draft, but you can lose it. And so if you're concerned about these running backs with their injuries, I can definitely understand passing on them. That said, like you never know. Like McCaffrey could be completely healthy this year, and then Kamara could be hurt this year. Like McCaffrey wasn't, and he didn't have an injury concern heading into last season. So I feel like this is so random, and it's like fantasy football is easier if you really know what you're doing. But then again, there's the injury stuff that always comes around, and you really can't do anything about it sometimes. It's just the luck of the draw on occasion, and you just have to hope that your players don't get hurt a lot.
For sure. And I think you're dead right. And you're now on the clock, but you just got to make decisions that you're like, all right, if I don't believe in this guy, I'm going to go with another guy. But a lot of these running backs, we see them clustered together, and they should all hypothetically be good. It's just who's going to stay healthy.
Yeah, seriously, it's just the luck of the draw. Ezekiel Elliott last year was a huge disappointment. He was overweight. That offensive line was in shambles, but it sounds like he's more in shape now. The offensive line can't be less healthy than it was last year. So those guys should be back. Dak Prescott's going to be back from injury. So I think Elliott could have a big year, especially coming off such a down season. I'm not like a huge fan of his. I wouldn't take him third or anything like that. But at number 8, I think it's a solid value right there.
Yeah, at the very least, you're getting volume with him because as good as Tony Pollard looked last year, as long as Ezekiel Elliott is there, they're going to roll with him as the lead back, unless he continues to struggle with weight or, suffer some sort of injury. So I think at the 8th spot, that's a good opportunity to take I don't even want to call it a flyer, but that's about right for Elliott, I would say, at this point in the offseason, because if you're worried about him in the second round, you can take a, safer player and you should be in pretty good shape.
What do you think about Stephon Diggs in the first round? I was a little surprised about that. You had the first receiver taken.
I think in a PPR league, that would make sense. This is we're doing a standard draft, so I don't like it as much in standard. I think that there are some running backs on the board. Both Antonio Gibson and Aaron Jones went after that. I think I would prefer them to Diggs in this scenario for sure. I don't mind Diggs as the number 1 receiver necessarily, though, especially in PPR leagues. But there are a lot of running backs I would take over Diggs at 9.
Yeah, I have him as I think my my fourth receiver, I don't want to say the names because the people listening might take them. So I'll make note of that when those receivers are off the board. But he's not in my top three. But he definitely can make the case that he could be. I mean, he was so awesome last year. The only worry I have with Diggs is because is that the Bills are going to be so far ahead in so many games that they don't have to throw as much. But then again, the number one receiver I have, he's in an offense that's going to be way ahead too. So, I don't know. I mean, they're all close together. I don't think it's a bad pick by any means, but I was a little surprised by it.
Yeah, no, I can see where you're coming from. I've come from the school of thought, as I learned last year. I tend to like to wait on receivers when I can. I'll probably go balanced in this mock, but last year at times I would go 8 rounds without drafting a receiver, like first 8. Like there's always so much depth at receiver comparatively to the running back. So I'll be interested to see what Regal does here to pair with Stephon Diggs because I think if you don't get a good running back here, this team could end up being in a shaky situation.
Yeah, that's true. It really depends on the depth at running back, but the depth at running back has been declining very rapidly in the past few years. So I expect it to be the same this year, but I guess you never know, and we'll find out. So I guess he'll find out. Maybe he's just trying something, a no running back strategy in the first 2 rounds, and just seeing how his team pans out. So it'll be interesting to see how that looks at the end. I'm going running back again with Joe Mixon. The Bengal offensive line is going to be better this year with Riley Reif. Joe Burrow is going to be back. He's going to be healthier. And then you have Jamar Chase, who's going to take attention away from Mixon. So Mixon should have a lot of running room. I know he's not really lived up to his talent level. It's not like he's been bad, but he's never been an elite player. But I think there's a chance that he could take a big step this year.
Yeah, and I like that pick as well. Like you said, he's going to get volume. I think the one concern I have with your core right now is both of them did have some injury or lethargy concerns last year. Mixon was weird because he was it kept being like, oh, he's questionable to return this week, and he wouldn't return. But I think if he could stay healthy, they should be in good shape. So I think your core, your running back core, those two have a ton of upside. You're getting volume, and that's what counts in the first 2 rounds. Like if you're worried about either of them, you can always handcuff them later. And I don't even think you necessarily have to if you're not a handcuff believer there. But Najee Harris just went off the board at the looks like the middle of the 2nd round. So I'm interested to hear your thoughts on that pick.
Well, first of all, I was going to say when you pointed out that my running backs had lethargic issues, it kind of matches me because I had lethargic issues recently based on my weight gain during the pandemic. I'm definitely the heaviest I've ever been, so I need to lose some weight. Najee Harris, I think he's fine around here. He's going to get a ton of volume. He's definitely going to be the 3-down running back there in Pittsburgh. I'm concerned about the offensive line, but given the touches and the scoring opportunities, I think that's a solid pick. So you're up on the clock.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of the running backs left. I was considering one of them, but I hate what Mike Mayock did to his offensive line, which gives away who I'm thinking about. But so I'm going to go with the receiver here, even though I tended to wait on receivers last year, taking a balanced approach for this first mock. I like DK Metcalf a lot. He played extremely well last year as one of the best quarterbacks in the league. And they have a new offensive coordinator, Shane Waldron, and they're going to be more aggressive through the air, is what it sounds like, to make Russell Wilson happier. So I'm going to go with Metcalf in the 2nd round and see if I can get a different running back to fall to me in my 3rd pick.
Yeah, it's a great pick. I love Metcalf. I was a huge fan of him last year, and he lived up to it for the most part. I was surprised to see Justin Jefferson go so late. He's my 3rd receiver. James Robinson just went in the 3rd round. That might be our first bad pick because the Jaguars, they drafted a running back in the 1st round, so I can't get behind that. But you're on the clock now.
Yeah, so my next pick, I'm going to go with a running back. One of the guys I was looking at is still there, but I'm going to go with David Montgomery, actually. The logic being the Bears should be improved with the quarterback improvement. Justin Fields will start eventually. And Montgomery did well last year, despite being surrounded largely by incompetent play callers and offensive problems and all sorts of things. And I know there's no coaching change, but a quarterback upgrade should really help there and just open things up more, because if they have a legit passing deep field threat that Justin Fields figures to be, Montgomery should have more space, and he's going to get volume there as well. So I like him at that point. I'm pretty sure the Bears did select a running back. I can't remember which one off the top of my head. Yeah, they didn't pick one until the 6th round. It was Khalil Herbert. So I'm comfortable with that selection there. I think he's a good RB2. Can't go wrong with him at this point.
Yeah, the Bears also signed Damian Williams, but I don't think he's going to take carries away from Montgomery. I mean, he was such a workhorse for them last year. So here we go. Josh Jacobs, Miles Sanders. I was actually looking at Miles Sanders for my pick, and also Jacobs. Those were the 2 top running backs available for me. I'm kind of surprised that there's one tight end. I guess I'm not gonna. Yeah, it's George Kittle. Obviously, everyone knows who that is. He usually goes around where Travis Kelce goes. So I'm a little surprised that he's still available. A.J. Brown was just chosen. It's a little surprising that he went before Julio Jones. I guess that's going to be the norm, but Julio Jones is such a better known player, I think. So the top players on my board, which they're quarterbacks, and I think that might be a mistake. So I think I might need to push them down. So I'm going to look at, let's see, Portland Sutton. So we both bet the Broncos to win the Super Bowl because we think Aaron Rodgers is going to go there. It's the most likely destination from him. I can't see him staying in Green Bay. It doesn't make sense because he said he's not going to play for them again. And Rodgers is stubborn. I don't see him changing his mind. So it's going to be the Raiders or the Broncos, and I think the Broncos are the favorites. If Rodgers goes to Denver, Sutton is going to be arguably a top 5 fantasy receiver. So to get him in the 3rd round, I think I'm a big fan of that. And even if Rodgers doesn't go there, I mean, Sutton's still going to be I think worth that pick. Maybe slightly too early, but I like him a lot.
Yeah, I think that may be a hair early for Sutton, but you're taking a chance on him. And both you and I liked him a lot last year before he had the torn ACL that ended his season. So that was a bummer to see him go down, because I took him over DK Metcalf last year. So I'm atoning for my mistakes in this year mock by taking Metcalf in the 2nd round. But I like that pick. I think bare minimum, like even with Drew Lock at quarterback, Cortland Sutton should still do well. Looks like Regal landed Chris Carson. I really like that pick. I always consider taking Chris Carson. I usually end up taking him at some point in the draft. He's like not the flashiest guy, but he gets the job done. So I like him. I would have preferred another running back with those first 2 picks, but it sounds like Regal had a computer malfunction according to the checks. So that may have resulted in one of those first 2 picks, if not both of them.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense. I always viewed Chris Carson as like the backup prom date. Like you always want to ask this one girl, and then like she says no, and you're like, all right, I'll go. I guess I'll go with her instead. I feel like that's Chris Carson. Like you always end up with him in the 3rd round if you miss out on a running back, and you're like, oh, okay, that's okay. Like, and you're never like too excited about it. You'll have a couple of good games here and there, but he's usually like a pretty like mediocre producer. But then again, like the price of running backs. That position's so thin that like they get inflated a lot. So like if Chris Carson had the same talent level as a receiver, he would be going much later.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's why I passed on him in the 3rd round this year. Like I would be like if I'm picking late in the 3rd round, then sure, maybe I would look at Chris Carson or maybe hope he slips to my 4th round pick. But I think late in the 3rd, I'm comfortable with him. And it looks like you're on the clock again.
Yeah, so George Kittle is available. It's surprising to me. I don't like going tight end early, but George Kittle in the 4th round seems like a steal. What are your thoughts on this? I'm very surprised he's available.
Yeah, I don't think you could pass on Kittle at that point, because you're talking about Kelce, Waller, and Kittle are the 3 best tight ends in the league. They're the only ones that are going to get significant target share. So I think in the 4th round, taking Kittle, that makes sense, especially where your running back position is good and you can fill out your receiving core easily. So I think at that point in the 4th round, yeah, definitely go for Kittle.
Yeah. All right. So some recent picks that kind of stand out to me, I think, like Michael Thomas, if Drew Brees are still there, obviously he'd be going earlier. It's a little weird to see him going in the 4th round after all these years where he's going 2nd round, maybe even end of 1st. I don't know what to think of Thomas this year, just because they're going to have Taysom Hill throwing the ball to him, and Taysom Hill runs so much. We saw Thomas's production slow down a little bit last year when Taysom Hill started. I don't know. What are your thoughts about Thomas in the fourth round? And then you're going to be up soon.
Yeah, I don't mind Thomas in the fourth round because I do think he will get targets, but he's not going to be the same reception machine. I think you're going to see him go earlier. I think he'll go maybe in the third round in a lot of mocks because people are just so used to seeing him go early. But in reality, you should probably wait on him if you can, just because he's not quite as good as he was last year. Now I'm on the clock again. We're kind of at the point in the draft where I feel like, not all the running back depth is dried up, but a good chunk of it has. So I'm going to want to grab probably one more guy, but I don't really like anyone on the board. I guess I'm going to pivot. I'm going to go to a different position. I'm going with Chris Godwin at this point because I love the Bucs offense, and I think that pairing him with DK Metcalf should go well. As long as Brady's healthy, Godwin's going to be a very consistent fantasy producer. So I'm comfortable with that. And I want to see where the other running backs still on the board end up, because we're at the shakier point of the draft from that perspective.
Yeah, that's true. There's some running backs still available. I like, so maybe the depth at running back isn't as bad as I thought. The receivers are really drying up. There aren't that many. The top receiver I have available is let's see, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah, it's like the 16th best player available at this point. So yeah, I guess receiver is thinner than I thought it would be. But yeah, I like the Godwin pick. If Mike Evans goes down with an injury, his production will go up. But he's still going to be, I want to say he's going to be steady. He's not going to have too many huge games, because Brady spreads the ball around too much or so much. But if Evans gets injured, he's going to have a huge season.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm kind of banking on. And either way, I think he's consistent. And that's what I look for in my second receiver. All right. So now I'm on the clock. There are a couple running backs I'm looking at. I'm trying to decide which one's the better play at this point. I got to look at the Cardinals depth chart to determine that. Unless I I'm going to go with Melvin Gordon in the 5th round. I know that Denver just brought in a second-round running back, Javonte Williams, but at the moment, Melvin Gordon, I think, should still top that depth chart. At the very worst, he's my 3rd running back. I can try to handcuff him at this point. It was between him and Chase Edmonds, and my only concern with Edmonds is what's his touchdown upside with Kyler Murray, because Kyler Murray will scramble for a lot of touchdowns. So, Melvin Gordon, with Drew Lock or Aaron Rodgers, probably not going to get a lot of touchdowns vultured from him unless Javonte Williams shows up. So not my favorite pick there, but I needed another running back. So I'm happy with that pick.
I can tell you, you're not going to be able to handcuff him, because I'm going to be taking Javonte Williams here unless these next 2 guys draft him. He's been getting all the touches in training camp because Melvin Gordon has not shown up. He's just been MIA, and I think there's a reason why the Broncos drafted Javonte Williams so early. I think they were a little disappointed with Melvin Gordon last year. And a report, I actually posted this on the site today. There was a report saying that Javonte Williams is the favorite to start in week 1, which is a little surprising to me. But, if someone thinks that, then I think that you could definitely make a case for Javonte Williams in the 5th round.
Well, I obviously didn't spend enough time on your website today, and I should have. I wasn't in love with the Gordon pick, but I was unaware that Williams was expected to be the starter at this point in the offseason. I also didn't know Melvin Gordon wasn't there. I've only really been paying attention to the Broncos from an Aaron Rodgers perspective, which is probably a mistake. But, hey, that's what these mocks are for. You learn new things, and you're like, why did I take Melvin Gordon in the 5th round? Wouldn't do that again.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, things can change. They're always fluid. It's only June. It's the middle of June right now. So in a month or so, maybe Melvin Gordon shows up and he's looking great. Like you always have to pay attention to the news, especially as the training camp starts and the season gets closer. But right now, I think I would go Javonte Williams over Melvin Gordon for sure. And I was even considering Javonte Williams in the 4th round. If George Kittle wasn't there, I think I may have taken Javonte Williams, although Kenny Galladay was slightly higher than him in my rankings. So I probably would have gone Galladay just because I don't have a second receiver yet, but I like Williams a lot.
Yeah, I think he's a good pick for you. The upside is there, and you could start 3 running backs if he does pan out in that big way. So, yeah, I think I probably, knowing what I know now, would prefer Williams over Gordon. I will be interested to see if Gordon does report how things will shake out there, because Gordon was not very good last year. I kind of expected him not to like be elite or anything, but I expected a little more from him. So I'll be watching the Broncos situation there quickly, especially because Vic Fangio's seat could heat up a bit if they don't do well on offense. So they have every incentive to start the best player, not the highest paid one.
Yeah, and conversely, if Rodgers goes there and Javonte Williams is named the starter, he's going to have so many touchdown opportunities, kind of like Aaron Jones. And I think Aaron Jones is a little overrated this year. Actually, wanted to touch on that. He went 11th overall. I can't draft Aaron Jones knowing that Aaron Rodgers is probably almost certainly not going to be the quarterback there, just because all of his touchdown opportunities are going to be gone unless Jordan Love is great. Like, who knows? Like, maybe Jordan Love is awesome. And he's had some good practices so far. So maybe that's a good sign, but he's obviously not going to be as good as Aaron Rodgers. And that's really going to affect his Aaron Jones' scoring opportunities.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. I think he's a major candidate for touchdown regression if Jordan Love starts. Even if Jordan Love is really good as a starter, I think, he's still not going to be taken as seriously as Aaron Rodgers, at least to start the season. He could quickly change things there if Love is better prepared than we're expecting. But I think either way, you're going to see teams load up to look to stop Aaron Jones in the box and then just focus on the outside on stopping Devontae Adams and say, hey, make Jordan Love beat us. Even if Aaron Rodgers does go back to Green Bay, there's always touchdown regression potential with Jones. And I still don't think that Rodgers is going back to Green Bay. I think that holdout's going to last a long time either way.
Right. And don't forget, they spent a 2nd-round pick on AJ Dillon too. So he's there. Right. And so he looked great at the end of the year. Like, he was, especially in that Tennessee game, he was just bulldozing the Titans. So he's going to get some touches, and maybe he turns into their goal line back. So like there are many reasons, I think, to avoid Aaron Jones early on. Okay, so I need to go receiver. Not one to reach on a position at receiver, but it's looking pretty dicey right now. Chase Claypool he was a monster as a rookie last year. Ben Roethlisberger is going to regress. Obviously, he's approaching 40. But Chase Claypool is just such a big touchdown producer, and he was only a rookie last year. He should get better. So yeah, I like him. I like him a lot. I like his upside.
Yeah, he was on my short list of receivers that I like. So safe to say I am a fan of that pick. I think with Sutton and Claypool, you have a ton of young upside, and Claypool's touchdown potential, as you hit on, is just sky high. Even if Roethlisberger continues to regress, like, that's the one question with him. Otherwise, I think he'd be like top 4 round receiver guy. We'd be talking about him in that late 4th range where Kenny Galladay and Chris Godwin went.
Yeah, no, yeah, seriously. If Roethlisberger were a few years younger, Claypool would be going much higher. It's just that, yeah, he's definitely going to regress. It's not out of the realm of possibility that he has like one more very good season. But I think we could expect him to get worse this year. Which is bound to happen unless you're Tom Brady and you could play till you're 45 apparently.
Yeah, absolutely. There's no shame in it for Roethlisberger if he's not quite as good this year. Looks like I'm up again. I'm taking a look at some of the receivers available, and I just kind of want to swing for the fences with my 3rd receiver pick. That's what I usually do. Like, Godwin and Metcalf are going to be good if they stay healthy. Odell Beckham Jr., I mean, that's a big swing. Like, if he comes back healthy and Baker Mayfield continues to improve, he's playing on a great offense with a lot of weapons. So I like Beckham's potential. I probably wouldn't take him as a top 2 receiver, but in the late 6th round, I'm willing to take a shot on him. And if he doesn't pan out, it's fine. I can grab a bunch of other later receivers that can pan out. But at this point, I like his upside enough.
Yeah, so with Beckham last year, I think he really missed out on a huge second half of the year when he went down with an injury because in the first half he had that one huge game against Dallas, and then he got hurt in the end of October. And the Browns really got going starting in November when their offensive line really gelled together, and Baker Mayfield he got healthy. Remember in that first Steeler game, Mayfield was injured. When Mayfield got healthy and the offensive line they started gelling together. That's when Cleveland really took off, and they scored a ton of points even though Beckham was gone. So I think if Beckham was there, he would have had some monster games, and so I think you're getting him at great value here in the 6th round.
Yeah, I'm definitely happy with the value there because I feel like early in his career, Beckham was always like a 1st or 2nd round receiver pick. Then he struggled a bit in Cleveland and hasn't been able to stay healthy, but if he does stay healthy, that offense is just so loaded. They have 3 quality running backs and a bunch of receiving weapons. I'm up again. I don't love what's on the board anywhere. There are some things that I'm okay with, but I'm gonna do something I don't usually do. I want Russell Wilson because I have DK Metcalf, so I'm gonna take a quarterback in the 7th round. Usually I like to wait till the 10th, 11th round to do that, but this time I'll take Wilson off the board here and see what else shakes out around me, see how people are valuing other players at this point.
If you don't like any of the players on the board, just go with the quarterback. I feel like I'm in the same situation. There are 2 receivers I like, but I'd have trouble taking them for reasons I'll specify later. And the rest of the best players available are quarterbacks and 1 tight end. So I might be joining you on the quarterback train, even though I like waiting on the quarterbacks. No, there's one quarterback who's way better than the others right now who's still on the board. So if he's gone, I might change my mind. But if he's still there, I'm going to take him. So I won't say who because these 5, 6, and 7 might be listening. So I guess I'll let that be a surprise. It's not Dak Prescott.
I figured it wasn't because I know you're not a big Prescott guy. Part of me was like, is he talking about Prescott? I would have been shocked if it was. I think I know who it is. I will tell you if you do pick the guy that I think you're going for.
Okay, well, we have 1 guy left. Deontay Johnson was one of the receivers I liked. I couldn't take because I took Claypool. It's just too much of a conflict. Aaron Rodgers is available, and Aaron Rodgers is going to be very pissed off this year because of what the Packers did, and if he goes to another team, I think we're going to see some fireworks from him. I think he's going to be so locked in to have a huge year, kind of like Tom Brady. Except if he goes to Denver, well, not except, but if he goes to Denver, he's going to have so many weapons. There's Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, Noah Fant. Plus the 2 running backs and a solid offensive line. I think he could have a huge year in Denver.
Yeah, that was not the guy I thought you were talking about Justin Herbert at first, but then I realized Aaron Rodgers is still on the board, so that makes perfect sense. I mean, last year I was all aboard the Aaron Rodgers hype train because I was like, he's going to be mad they picked Jordan Love, and lo and behold, he was, and he had an MVP caliber year. So, I mean, if he goes to another team, he's going to want to stick it to the Packers for investing in a quarterback and not just committing to him longer term. So I love that, especially where you have Sutton. So if Rodgers does go to Denver, which seems to be one of his possible landing spots, you're going to have a quarterback and his top receiver available. And I love doing that. That's what I did with Metcalf and Wilson. It's one of my favorite strategies. I used to do it all the time with Matt Ryan and Julio Jones. Unfortunately, can't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's true. One year I had Brady and Gronk, and my team suffered 1 loss and just dominated throughout the playoffs. So I definitely like that strategy. Conversely, I would not go with quarterback, running back unless that running back catches a ton of passes. It's just because your touchdown upside is going to be limited because it's either the running back's going to run in the touchdown and then your quarterback's not going to get the points, or vice versa, your quarterback's going to throw a touchdown not to this running back because he doesn't catch passes, and then your running back's not going to score any points. So you're kind of limiting your upside. That's definitely something you should keep in mind, is to not do that unless it's like a Christian McCaffrey or Saquon Barkley, where there's a good chance that they catch the touchdown pass.
Yeah, I think that's you got to like if you're talking like JD McKissick and James White types of PPR too, that's the other time you can be like, all right, I'm going to get this guy. He might be my flex play and I'm going to have his quarterback. But other than that, like I wouldn't want to stack Sam Darnold and Christian McCaffrey. Not that I would ever plan on doing that anyway, because Sam Darnold wouldn't be my top fantasy quarterback. But anyway, you're on the clock.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Maybe he has a great year. I was going to take Jerry Jeudy, actually. It's a good pick. And I was going to double stack the Rodgers with the two receivers. So I thought that would be fun. But I can't do that anymore. I'm going to take Gabriel Davis. I like him a lot. This might be early for him, not based on what he's going to do, but based on where other people draft him. I don't know if he's going to be on the radar of a lot of people yet, but I think he's going to have a great year. John Brown's gone, so he's going to be the number 2 receiver. And when he had the chance last year, he produced. He did very well despite being a rookie. And he's going to be in an offense with Josh Allen, so the touchdown opportunities are going to be there. So Gabriel Davis is one of my top sleepers this year.
Yeah, I'll be all aboard the Gabriel Davis sleeper train as well. As you mentioned, great quarterback, lots of opportunities coming his way. So I think getting him in the 8th round, like, may not look like a great value now, but like end of season, people are going to look back and say, wow, how did he last that long? So I'm all for that at this point. I would probably have considered him in the 8th or 9th round if I had any idea what I was doing today.
Well, I think that, if this were like 15 to 20 years ago, Gabriel Davis would be there for you in the 12th or 13th round. But I feel like fantasy has changed a lot, and it's tougher to find sleepers because, if like someone like me posts like the fantasy sleepers page and we like I put Gabriel Davis on top of it, that's going to generate some hype, and like other fantasy sites are going to do that as well. And so suddenly there's going to be a ton of hype for Gabriel Davis, and like by the end of August, he might be going in like the 6th round. So like it's really changed a lot. So you're up on the clock.
Yeah, this is another scenario where I don't really like any of my options, but I need running back depth. And I'm between two, one option that I don't want to take and one that probably doesn't make a ton of sense to take. But I'm going to go with the one that I like better. I don't want to take the other one. I'm going with Gus Edwards. Look, he always outperforms expectations. I know that J.K. Dobbins is in front of him and should be the leader, but they run so much in Baltimore. Like, you can get some touchdowns out of him. And if Dobbins gets hurt, Edwards will be the lead back. So as my 4th running back, I'm comfortable with that. I could have gone for someone with more volume opportunities, but I didn't want to. Also, it looks like Dylan has been kicked from the thing. So team 1 is in auto pick mode now.
Yeah, it looks like that's the case. Yeah, he took Jeff Wilson Jr., which is not something I'd recommend because he is injured. And then Hunter Henry is, I don't know about him in New England because they have the 2 tight ends. He could probably do well. So you're on the clock.
Yeah, I'm going with Curtis Samuel here. I pick Curtis Samuel almost every year at this point. He's just really dynamic. He touches the ball in a lot of different ways. He's explosive, and he should get a fair amount of targets in Washington. He's the number 2 receiver across from Terry McLaurin. He'll play in the slot. He'll come out of the backfield. They're really creative there, so they'll figure out a way to get the ball in his hands. It's probably a little early for him at this point, but I didn't want to risk missing out on him. I'm pretty comfortable with him. And, he might end up factoring in as a running back. We saw him get some carries in Carolina there too. So I will gladly take him. And however he touches the ball, he should make an impact because there will be more opportunities in Washington than there were in Carolina for him.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what they do with him. I hope they use him like the Panthers did last year. Like Joe Brady kind of figured that out. So yeah, we'll see about that. Devontae Smith surprised me in the 9th round, not because I don't think he belongs there, but because his ADP I saw was like 12th round. So it looks like people are finally catching on that he should probably be going earlier. So I think that it's a good pick. I think that's fine. And then we see Justin Herbert go. And yeah, he was like you mentioned him as the quarterback I might have taken. Like he was the next quarterback on the board after Rodgers, but I don't think I would have taken Herbert in the 7th round. 9th round makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, I think 9th round. I think I might prefer the value of Justin Herbert in the 9th round than I do to any of the 7th round quarterbacks. Russell Wilson and Aaron Rodgers you can't really argue with, but I like Justin Herbert a lot. So getting him at that point while adding the last 3 rounds they've added DJ Moore, Brandon Ayuk, and DJ Chark, like their receiving core is looking pretty good. Now the running backs have some concerns because Harris and Etienne are rookies, but I think Tuver Flinching, the number 6 team in this draft, is doing a really good job. And the Herbert pick was just another really smart pickup there.
Yeah, it looks like I like the triple running backs and then ATN. So his running backs are really good. Julio Jones, I don't know. I think Tennessee's such a run heavy offense that I think Jones his production is going to drop a little bit. But it's the 4th round. I think that's fine. Ayuk, I like a lot this year. DJ Moore is gonna be fine. And then I think I would if I were him. The only pick I disagree with is Chark over Chenault. I think that it may sound weird because Chark has been a better producer. He was a better producer than Chenault last year, but Chenault is so talented, and I think he's going to have a huge 2021 season. It sounds like the coaches are huge fans of his. And this is a guy who, like, some people thought he was going to be a top 10 draft pick, and he dropped, for reasons you can read about on the site. Charlie Campbell posted a report, and I kind of forget what Charlie posted, but he broke down why Chenault dropped, and it didn't sound that serious. And he flashed as a rookie, and I think he's going to have a big year in his second season.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm a fan of Laviska Shenault as well. He's another guy similar to Curtis Samuel that you can use in a variety of ways as a running back out of the backfield, as a receiver in the slot outside. So I think the more coordinators find these guys, the more they're going to find ways to use them. And pairing him with Trevor Lawrence, that's going to be really big for him because he played with Gardner Minshew last year and was pretty, productive in those games before he got nicked up. And then we had the Jake Luton games and all that fun stuff. But now we've got Trevor Lawrence there. So I like Chenault in the 9th round. Yeah, you got a couple of really nice sleeper receivers there.
So speaking of sleeper receivers, I'm going to go with the guy that Jets drafted, and he's been Elijah Moore has been amazing in practices from what I've read. Now that may not translate to games, so curious to see how he does in the preseason. Thankfully, there is a preseason this year, so we can kind of like gauge that a little bit. But he is from what I've read from multiple sources, he's the real deal. And the Jets have a real coaching staff and a real quarterback this year, so he could have a big season. I think he's fine in the 10th round. What do you think about Jalen Hawkins? He's someone I didn't even have on my board. I guess he might start if Mike Davis disappoints. I don't know. What do you think about him?
Yeah, I do not know much about Javian Hawkins at all, I'll be honest. So I'm kind of surprised to see him go in the 10th round, but if he ends up being the backup, that could be a good pick. Maybe Bagley knows something about Atlanta that we don't. Maybe Hawkins has been getting some buzz. So I can't complain too much at this point in the draft, but I am a little surprised.
Yeah, my screen's so dirty. I think I read that as Jalen Hawkins, not Javian Hawkins. He's someone not on my radar. I should probably look into that. And it is important because Mike Davis is projected to be a 4th round pick, and it's someone you should probably avoid if Hawkins is getting a ton of hype. So yeah, definitely have to look into that. There is a tight end who's not drafted. I'll say him because it's so late. Noah Fant is somehow still available as far as I can tell, which is really surprising to me. I guess people aren't on the Aaron Rodgers to Denver hype train as we are, because if Rodgers goes to Denver, Noah Fant's going to be a top 5 fantasy tight end.
Yeah, I actually almost just took Fant, but I decided not to because I wanted to make sure I got Latavius Murray. I just needed one more solid running back. And Murray, he's on the Saints. He's backing up Kamara, and he has to deal with Hill probably vulturing touchdowns. But if Kamara goes down, Murray could get 20 carries a game. So I like that. And lo and behold, Fant has made it back to me, and I will nail him in the 11th round. For the reasons you said, Rodgers could go there. If that happens, he could be a top 5 tight end. Even if it doesn't happen, Fant was really good at the end of last year. And if Drew Lock can make the next step, I know big if, but Fant could end up being a solid producer at the position. So I'm comfortable with him. And then, riding out the waiver wire if it doesn't work out.
Yeah, no, I mean it's proof that you can wait on tight ends. Dallas Goedert in the ninth round is a good pick. Noah Fant, it's an amazing pick in the 11th round. There's another. There are three tight ends I still have ranked pretty highly that I would consider here. So like I said, you can definitely wait on tight ends. But then again, George Kittle in the fourth round was such a steal. I just couldn't pass up on him. So yeah, you can definitely go both ways. Tunyon is another one if Rodgers somehow changes his mind, but I would not draft Tunyon with Jordan Love set to start.
Yeah, I would leave Bobby Tunyon on the waiver wire right now. I always call him Bobby in my head. I don't know why, but I would probably have taken Jonnu Smith there. I actually like Hunter Henry went in the 8th round. I know Dylan got kicked out of his browser crashed, so he didn't necessarily pick Henry in the 8th round. But I think Jonnu Smith might end up being the better Patriots tight end, if that makes sense. He'll have to stay healthy to do that. I think both will be viable low-end tight end one fantasy options. So we'll see what happens there. But I'm a fan of that pick, the idea of picking Jonnu late.
Yeah. So I only have 3 running backs. So I probably need another one. I talked about Damian Williams before. I think he's going to be the backup for David Montgomery. Damian Williams, I feel like he's a little overrated because of he was with Patrick Mahomes, and it's tough to look bad with Patrick Mahomes. But if Montgomery goes down, and he had a big workload last year, Williams is going to be the starter with an offense that's going to be better. So I don't hate this pick. Just doesn't have I guess it has some upside if Montgomery goes down, but if Montgomery doesn't get injured, I'll probably be cutting Damian Williams by like week 3 for someone on the waiver wire.
Yeah, I think if you're drafting Damian Williams, you're basically just saying, like, I think he'll beat Tariq Cohen for the backup job and possibly third down work, which is a fine bet at this point in the draft. And, if Montgomery gets dinged up, maybe Williams will come in and start. But I tend to agree with you. Andy Reid has a history of making running backs look better than they actually are. So, I'm not wild about him, but in the 11th round, I think that's a pretty good handcuff option who could have some value as a pass catcher.
Yeah, there's one of the tight ends. No, it's not. I confused Gerald Everett with the other Rams tight end, Tyler Higbee. Higbee, when Everett was hurt, Higbee had a great run in 2019. And so I think with Everett gone, I think Higbee could have a good year, especially with Stafford as quarterback. So we're going to take I want your opinion on this guy. You're from the New England area, Ramondre Stevenson. I'm just swinging for the fences here. He's one of my last non-kicker, non-defensive picks. And I think that, hey, maybe if Damon Harris goes down, maybe Ramondre Stevenson starts. So what do you think about this guy?
Yeah, so he's a guy who's on my radar for a late pick. Of course, I'll never get him in my fantasy draft because he's a Patriot and all my family's from New England and all my league mates. But the name that comes to mind is LeGarrette Blount. He fits that prototype. He's big, he's strong, he's a powerful runner. Doesn't catch the ball much, but Bill Belichick is like those early down workhorse types. So if Damian Harris can't stay healthy, and I think Stevenson's as good a bet as any to take over. I don't think Sony Michel's going to make the team this year. So Stevenson in the 12th round could really pay dividends. So if you're in a league that doesn't have a lot of people from the New England area, feel free to take a chance on him late. If you're me, you will probably watch him go off the board far too early.
Yeah, I get that with the Eagles players here. Although I will say I went to a wedding this past Sunday. A lot of people have turned on the Eagles. Someone tried to start an Eagles chant, and there were like 2 people chanting Eagles, and the rest booed him. And so there's a lot of Philly fans are unhappy. I don't know. I can't tell you how many people I talked to who said they're now going to root for the Colts because Carson Wentz went there. So it's rough times here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, that doesn't sound too fun. I feel bad. They were on top of the world so recently. I'm glad I live in New England. Well, we'll see. Yeah,
you're on the board.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I'm taking a receiver here because I think I only have 4. Yeah, I only have 4. So it's just a matter of who has the most upside. I'll probably take 2 receivers with my next 2 picks. I'm going to go with Michael Gallup because Dallas's defense is still terrible. They're still going to have to throw a lot. And, Dak Prescott's not an earth-shatteringly great quarterback, but he does put up a lot of big stats, and he will get opportunities for all three of his receivers. So Michael Gallup, I'm willing to take a chance on him, and we'll see we'll see if that pans out.
I like the pick a lot. I was gonna consider him if he dropped back to me. So you're up again.
Okay, I'm between two other receivers here now. I guess I'll pick Mike Williams at this point from the Chargers because I'm a big believer in Justin Herbert. And, Williams never stays healthy, but he's got a big frame and he's good. Hypothetically should be a good touchdown receiver. So if he can stay healthy and work with Herbert as number 2 receiver, I like that a lot. And he's my 6th receiver, so I can't complain if he runs into any issues anyway. I could just cut him for someone else.
Yeah, he was frustrating last year because it would seem like Justin Herbert would lock on to 2 players, and it was usually Keenan Allen, obviously, and then either Hunter Henry or Austin Eckler. But with Herbert being in his 2nd year, he's not going to do that as often. And plus, Henry's gone, so this should open up more opportunities for Williams. So he was the other guy I was considering. So there's a player who's not well known. I'm going to consider with this next pick, unless team number 7 takes him, and he's a receiver. And I just read some good things about him, so we'll see if I land him. So it's not Cole Beasley. It's Brian Pringle from the Chiefs. So with Sammy Watkins gone, someone has to be the number 2 receiver, and some people think it might be McCole Hardman or Demarcus Robinson. But Brian Pringle has caught more passes from Patrick Mahomes than any other player in OTA so far, somehow. Now, that may mean absolutely nothing. Like maybe Mahomes is just trying to see what he has in Pringle because he just doesn't really know. But that could mean a lot too. So I'm willing to take the chance on Pringle. Now, Cornell Powell, who Bagley just took him. It's another guy who could be a big producer as well. He's a rookie, and he could be the number 2 receiver as well. But I just heard some recent good things about Pringle. So you're swinging for the fences here in the final rounds, and the Byron Pringle has the upside. He has a low floor, obviously, but those are the kind of players you want to draft late.
Yeah, I like the Pringle pick. He went to Kansas State, I'm pretty sure, and was pretty good there. And so, any time you get a guy with Patrick Mahomes, it could pan out. Maybe he just develops a good connection with Pringle. Maybe he's like, this guy's got sure hands, or this guy runs good routes. So I think if you're picking late and you're like, I don't know who to take a receiver, it's never bad to just take one of the Chiefs and say, hey, if this works out, great. If not, I'll pick up someone on the waiver wire. So I think the Pringle pick's a really good one at this stage.
Yeah. So this, unless Fantasy Football Calculator has changed its algorithm, we should be entering the final 2 rounds of the draft because they have it 15 rounds instead of 16 for some reason. So I will be going defense kicker here. I will say that if you're drafting super early and your fantasy commissioner allows it, I would not draft a kicker or a defense and just wait until the final day right before the season to pick them up, because I would rather go with some sleepers and see what you have in them. And because a lot can change in the preseason, maybe someone gets hurt. Maybe someone looks great. So I would try to get as many sleepers as possible if you're drafting early. Now, if you're drafting right before the season starts, then obviously you could probably alter that strategy, and you probably know everything you're going to know. So you just go kicker defense. But this early, I would avoid these guys. But for the sake of this exercise, I'm going to take a defense and a kicker. And San Francisco's defense is going to have Nick Bosa and Dee Ford back from injury. Obviously, one of the best defenses in the NFL. And I'm kind of surprised that no one took them. But I guess then again, this is a Walter football mock draft, so people know not to take defense kicker. And I feel like if we're doing a draft with random people, a lot more defenses would have gone earlier.
Yeah, I think I can agree with that. Yeah, we usually tend to have savvy drafters in here that follow the draft strategies we have laid out. That's why we did not see a defense get selected until the 11th round. And again, I have to go to bat for Dylan here. That was auto picked for him. So,
right.
We usually just wait on defenses here, and that's always the right move. I will also be doing defense and then kicker. I'm also one of the annoying commissioners who makes people take defense and kicker. You don't have to carry them the whole year, but I will make you do that, at least for the draft, because I like how the draft board looks. I am going to go with my very under-researched Carolina pick. I'm going with the Panthers defense because they're playing the Jets, Saints, and Texans to start the year. Zach Wilson, dynamic-looking prospect, but it's his first start. And then, we got the Texans in there the third week, so I will take that every day of the week. All right, now I got to pick a kicker. I'm not gonna agonize over this. I usually just pick the Falcons kicker. That's a terrible strategy this year, and also looks like he's already been picked.
Yeah, he's gone.
This is not going well for me, apparently. All right. Well, I will just take Matt Prater because I love Matt Prater, and apparently he's on the Cardinals now. I did not know that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I found out when I was doing my season previews. It's not like I track the kicker movements very closely. So I wanted to ask you this because you're a commissioner. And so one of my commissioners has adopted your strategy because he listens to us. And now he makes us take kickers and defenses because he realized I was kind of gaming the system. So what I've done in defiance is instead of drafting a real kicker, I have drafted kickers who have kicked like 20 years ago and are now out of the NFL. What do you think about that? Like, what would you do to someone who did that?
Hey, as long as he's in the database, that's fine with me. Like, if you pick like, I'm trying to even think, David Akers, you pick David Akers. Like, if I can put him in the ESPN Fantasy League database, sure, I'll do it. If not, I'm just going to assign you a random kicker with that pick. But I'll let people pick whoever they want at kicker. I'm just like, I got to have it on the draft board. I got to see like the kickers were selected. Like, maybe my rules will change eventually. I don't hate people not holding on to kickers, but I do hate it for the purposes of the draft. I just think it levels the playing field a bit, and then you have to use a waiver pickup to pick up someone else. I know it's not super exciting, but yeah, I believe in kickers still.
Well, maybe I'll draft a make believe person like Jamie Lannister as my kicker, and then they'll have to write that in. So, all right, so this draft is complete. We can talk about our teams. So I'll go first. So I went running back, which I think is fine to do. I kind of learned that receivers are a little thin and running backs are a little deeper than I thought. Not super deep or anything, but you can get, like, I got Javonte Williams in the 5th round. Chase Edmonds went right after me. I know you were considering him. I think that's a fine pick in the 5th round. And then you have like Raheem Mostert, who's okay in the 5th round. Ronald Jones is fine in the 5th round. So yeah, the running backs are deeper than I thought. Receivers not as much. And some players went a little later than I thought. Obviously the Denver guys, because people aren't on the Aaron Rodgers to Denver train with us. So anyway, so I like my running back core, especially if Javonte Williams holds on to the starting position, which he presumes to have right now. Receivers have upside. Sutton, if Rodgers goes there. Claypool, his second year, he has big time ability. Same thing with Davis. Chenault, another second year receiver, and then Elijah Moore is a rookie. George Kittle, obviously one of the top 3 tight ends, maybe number 2. And then Aaron Rodgers, I think he's going to be pissed this year. It really depends on where he goes. I'd rather him not go to the Raiders. I love Greg Olsen as a coordinator, but that offensive line is so bad. I don't know if they can protect him. So I'd rather see him go to Denver, and he's going to have better receivers in Denver. So yeah, I like my team so far. It's a fine first team. I think I'm going to move my quarterbacks down my big board overall because they were bunched up a little too high. But yeah, I don't think that's too bad for my first try. So what do you think about your team?
Yeah, I like your team as well. And then in terms of my team, like I like the alternating strategy. I agree with you. I think running back depth is the best we've seen in at least 3 years at this point. You can get, if not a quality starter, then at least someone that's a key part of a 1-2 punch in that 5th, 6th round range. So, I probably wouldn't take Melvin Gordon at that spot. Again, would go Javonte Williams, knowing what I know now. But McCaffrey, Montgomery are solid picks. Edwards is a solid backup who, will get touches and potential goal line carries. And then Murray's a good handcuff. I like my receivers a lot. I think Metcalf, Godwin, Beckham have real boom potential, and they have particularly high floors, I think, too, provided that they stay healthy. And then the backup triage of Samuel, Gallup, and Mike Williams looks pretty good as well. I think all of them have at least solid quarterbacks. Like, Ryan Fitzpatrick can be shaky, but at least gets balls to his receivers and takes a lot of chances. So that's good. Russell Wilson's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. Noah Fant, I think, was a good pickup at tight end. Bit surprised Jonnu Smith didn't get drafted at all because he was the other guy I was considering in the 11th round, though. So if Fant is off the board earlier come draft day, I will probably be looking hard at Jonnu Smith. Again, if you're not from New England. If you are from New England like me, you're never getting Jonnu Smith in the 11th round. And then, kicker and defense, sure, whatever. Those look fine to me. But yeah, I think this is a solid team. Again, I think I would redo that 5th round Melvin Gordon pick. But I think the way to go this year, at least what I'm seeing, is a balanced approach early to make sure you get like a true number one receiver. And then, I think the two running backs and a receiver with your first 3 picks is going to look best when you're building your team this year. That's what I've learned from this. Test out other strategies to make sure of that, but I'm happy with what I got.
Yeah, I like your team. I like the balanced approach that you were discussing, and I kind of wonder if I should have gone Hopkins over Mixon, and then maybe one of Josh Jacobs or Miles Sanders gets pushed down to me, or maybe even Mixon if no one likes him. I think that's the direction I probably should have gone. Looking it over, although Mixon could have a huge year, but I love Hopkins. Yeah, like getting that number one receiver with a position that's not as deep. I think it's a good strategy. So, let's quickly run through these teams. The first team, obviously, Dylan got cut off in the middle of his draft, unfortunately. But for the first few picks, he's definitely strong at running back. Obviously, with those 3 players, and then Kyler Murray is, I usually don't like going quarterback early, but Murray is going to have a huge year, and I could see that really panning out for him. And then I like Jamar Chase, and then maybe it looks like Thielen, Kupp. I think after that he may have gotten kicked off. I think Kupp may have been his last pick just from looking at this.
Yeah, I think he was kicked off after the Chase pick, so I think Thielen and Kupp ended up being solid picks by the computer there. I think you're not bad values. I like the approach. The Kamara, Swift, Dobbins, that trio, I think is going to would make his team really competitive. And, I know some people say, why Kamara first? But I think that there's some bearing for that because he has been healthy. And, hypothetically, if all goes well in that offense, he should still get a lot of touches. I am a little worried about him getting fewer catches because Taysom Hill didn't check down as much to him. But we'll see what happens there. So I don't hate that for sure. But I definitely like what Dylan did early. That team was shaping up to be a really strong one, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. Debo Chark, I feel like that's what that guy was going for, number 2. So his running back depth is not very strong, and he took James Robinson as a second running back. I mean, James Robinson could have a solid year, but ATN's going to cut into that. And his other running back, besides Derrick Henry, is Kenyon Drake, who's not the starter. So you got to wonder where his production at running backs is going to come from. I like his receiving core. It's, Justin Jefferson, I love this year. Kenny Galladay is the best player on the board when he drafted him, I think. Lockett's fine. Marquise Brown's okay. Devontae Smith I like a lot. So his receiving core is strong. But he doesn't have a good quarterback. Baker Mayfield is not strong in fantasy. The solid tight end, the good tight end. But his running back core is just, I think, easily the worst of any team except for maybe team number 12. And even team number 12 seems better than this, I think.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of this team because they're 8 receivers. There's just a serious like the receiving core is strong, but there's just a lack of balance at the running back spot is really troubling. Like, I don't think Drake was not good last year in Arizona, and now he's playing as a backup in Las Vegas behind an offensive line that lost 3 starters. And then if he doesn't pan out and Robinson loses touches to ETN, then you're talking about Tariq Cohen and Matt Breida, both of whom may not make their teams, having to be trusted as fantasy assets. So yeah, I'm not a fan of the running back depth there. I do like the Derrick Henry and Justin Jefferson picks to start it though. I would just recommend taking another running back, maybe at that 5th round spot, just to shore up the depth there.
Yeah, I kind of wonder if he got kicked off after the 2nd round, just based on how this looks. So you were team 3. We talked about you. Then Thanos Snappers, number 4. He went with the balanced approach as well. I like his team. Well, I like his team except for the Clyde Edwards-Helaire pick. I think he did not look good last year, and maybe you can buy him low this year, but buying him low is not in the third round. That's like fifth round. So I think that's a little too early for him. Otherwise, I mean, Dalvin Cook, Calvin Ridley, CeeDee Lamb, Trey Sermon, I like a lot. Michael Carter, who could have a big year as possibly the Jets starting running back. I think that's a very strong start. I would have waited on tight end. I think I would have drafted a third receiver instead of Hawkinson in the seventh round. Then the Jalen Hurts is. I don't know what to do about Jalen Hurts. He has huge upside, but he could easily be benched if he throws a lot of interceptions, which could happen. I don't like this team after the sixth round, but I thought it was a very strong start for Thanos Sappers.
Yeah, I agree. Jalen Hurts is the pick that sticks out to me as one I don't like. I could easily see Trevor Lawrence, who's picked later, being the quarterback that starts every week there. And I know Hurts has rushing upside, but like you said, I'm not convinced he lasts as the starter the whole season. And even if he does, he's going to have to show a lot more as a passer to be like a top 12 fantasy quarterback every week.
Yeah, for sure. Bob, team number 5. He went balanced as well with Barkley, Hopkins, Jacobs, Cooper, Mike Davis, Deebo Samuel. I love the first 6 picks. We'll see about Mike Davis with the JV and Hawkins thing that we should probably look into. But otherwise, it's pretty good. Dak Prescott, not a huge fan, but I don't think it's a bad pick in the 7th round. And then Michael Pittman Jr. and Darnell Mooney, they both have upside. Dallas Goedert is a good tight end to draft in the 9th round. Alexander Madison was someone I was going to draft in the 11th round, but Bob took him off the board. So, I like Bob's team overall.
Yeah, I considered Madison when I took Latavius Murray. He was one of our favorite handcuffs last year, so I really like that pick. And the running back core there is pretty strong. You got Barkley, you got Jacobs, who will regress a bit because of the downgraded offensive line, but as a running back too, that's fine. I like Mike Davis. Again, like you said, we'll have to look into his situation there, but he was great with the Panthers last year, so he should do well with the Falcons. So I think Bob has a really good team here.
Yeah, we talked about 2 for flinching. It's a really good team. Although I don't like the double tight ends at the end there, but good otherwise. KJVE, Jonathan Taylor in the first round. I'm surprised he took Taylor over Ezekiel Elliott. But I think it's a fine pick. Devontae Adams is. He has great upside if Rodgers comes back, but if it's Jordan Love, I don't know if he's going to match that production. AJ Brown is someone I like. And Gaskin is a fine pick. Not too exciting. Pitts, Jackson, they're okay. Deontay Johnson, I like a lot. I think that's his best draft pick. Just looking at his team, I think this is kind of like an average to above average team. What do you think?
Yeah, I like it a little more than you, just because I think Adams might be productive no matter what. So I like the receiving core there a lot. I think I would have done running back a little bit different. I probably would go Ezekiel Elliott or Antonio Gibson at 7 over Jonathan Taylor. I mean, Antonio Gibson, Jonathan Taylor, you could go either way on, just depends on your view of each team. But I think the receiving core stands out as really good. I like the Will Fuller pick in the 8th round. He's going to be suspended one game to start the year, but he's a burner. If he stays healthy, he can do really well. I think he was like a top 5 fantasy receiver last year before he got suspended. So if he stays on the field, he will be good.
Yeah, that's true. I just worry about KJV's running back depth. It's not very strong. Although he took 4 running backs between rounds 9 through 12, so maybe he can find a diamond in the rough. But the running back depth isn't that great. And Gaskin's okay. Like he's not. I think you want him as your 3rd running back, not 2nd. So it's a little bit of a concern, but it seems solid otherwise. Regal number 9. His running back depth is I thought it was going to be an issue because he started with Chris Carson after he went Diggs and Mahomes. It's kind of what we talked about before. But I like Chase Edmonds as a 2nd running back in the 5th round. And then AJ Dillon, who has great upside. If Aaron Jones goes down, Dillon is going to be an RB2 at the very least. And then Damian Harris in the 9th round. I'm kind of surprised he lasted that long. I know it's hard to take a Patriots running back. But it's a starting running back in the 9th round. So I think that's pretty good. And I like Jerry Jeudy a lot and Antonio Brown. We talked about Chris Godwin's upside. If Mike Evans goes down, if one of those receivers goes down, Brown's going to have a big year. So I think Regal has a ton of upside here.
Yeah, and Regal told me in the chat that he was looking to pick Joe Mixon when the computer took Pat Mahomes for him.
Okay.
So if he had Joe Mixon with this running back core, I think this would be a really strong team. And even without it, I think this is a solid team. So I think this goes to show that this year, if you play your cards right, you can go the zero RB strategy in the first 2 rounds. Now, it might get dicey, and your depth is not going to be great, but you can do it. Whereas last year, I think I tried to do it once, and I was just the whole time I was like, "Oh my god, my team is awful! Like this is disgusting. What am I doing?"
Yeah, it's definitely a concern if you wait, but it could turn out. Bagley at 10. I like how he started with Gibson, Eckler, and then Allen Robinson. Waller over Kittle, I guess you can debate, but Waller's going to have a big year in all likelihood. Then Robert Woods with Matthew Stafford he should have a better season with Stafford being an upgraded quarterback. And then he kind of took some flyers, like if Fournette, like if Ronald Jones gets hurt, Fournette's going to have a big year. Singletary, if Zach Moss gets hurt, Singletary could have a big year. Marvin Jones is the one pick I don't really like. I know he's a name, but he's the third receiver in Jacksonville with the rookie quarterback, albeit with Trevor Lawrence. But still, I don't know if I'd want a third receiver in the 9th round. From a team, and then we'll see what happens. Maybe Javian Hawkins is going to be this huge sleeper we should be looking into.
Yeah, and I like his pick of deleted in the 15th round. I don't know who that is, but apparently Fantasy Football Calculator has a player that was deleted from their database. So props to Bagley for finding that and picking it, because that's pretty fun. So well done. I agree with what you said about the team. I like Marvin Jones a little more than you. He actually reminds me a little bit of James Jones when he was the third receiver from the Packers when Aaron Rodgers was in his heyday, and he was still a productive fantasy asset. I get your concerns, though. Jones has just always been so consistent that I don't mind him at that point. Maybe I'd wait a round or 2 on him. I drafted Jones a ton last year, but yeah, I like his upside with Lawrence, but we'll see how things shake out between him, Chark, and Chenault. I do like Chenault and Chark better than Jones, though. I will say that.
Yeah, so I'm going to pick deleted as my kicker in Drew's league. So Drew, if you're listening, just put that on the board now. Stu at number 11. So we talked about Aaron Jones, not as high on him this year unless Rodgers comes back. And then Tyreek Hill is an amazing player. I was hoping he would drop to me. So those 3 picks away. Kareem Hunt, solid pick in the 3rd round. Michael Thomas, talked about him as well, where he could have a drop in production, but I don't think there's a bad pick. And then Raheem Mostert's solid. David Johnson, he's your 4th running back. So, if he doesn't produce, it's not like you're going to take a huge hit outside of depth elsewhere, but he gets hurt so much and that team is so miserable. I don't know if I draft anyone from Houston in the first 6 rounds, including Johnson. But then I like his next couple of picks, T. Higgins and Juju Smith-Schuster. Higgins was great last year as a rookie, and then Joe Burrow is coming back. And Smith-Schuster last year was going much earlier, so I feel like this is good value. Tom Brady's a fine quarterback to have, and then Robbie Anderson has upside with having played with Sam Darnold before. And then he went double tight end again. Is second guy to do that. I don't understand the 2 tight ends, but I guess people like tight ends better than I do.
Yeah, I don't get the 2 tight end thing either, especially Irv Smith. I'm not big on him, but 12th round, I won't complain too much. Wondering if Stu is a New England fan, seeing Tom Brady, Rob Gronkowski, and Cam Newton on here. I would be happy if he is, obviously. I think this is a pretty solid draft. You outlined the concerns with Jones and Thomas about potential regression there. And, do you really want to touch anyone on the Texans? Not really. No, I don't. But David Johnson, the 6th round, is the 4th running back. You can't complain. So I think this is a solid team. It has a couple pieces that are boom or bust. But if they boom, then this is a true contender.
Yeah. So last but not least, team number 5, drafting at the 12th pick. I think it's a fine team. His running back depth, which we touched on a little bit, is not that great. James Conner as your 3rd running back is not ideal at all. But then again, maybe Zach Moss has a solid season, so it could pan out for him. But I like what he did elsewhere. Keenan Allen, Mike Evans. It's a good way to start the receiving core. And then Tyler Boyd, but then his 4th receiver was in the final round. So outside of like maybe you don't want to draft 3 quarterbacks. I think that's a huge mistake. I don't even like drafting 2 quarterbacks. But I thought his pick of Deshaun Watson was very interesting. As someone like it wasn't even on my radar because of his situation, and he's going to be suspended, obviously. But if he, if news comes out and the allegations go away, and he's suspended, like 6 games, 8 games, something like that. That pick in the 13th round is going to look amazing. So I'm kind of curious of your thoughts on taking Watson late.
Yeah, I don't mind it. I'm always one to take stash candidates, whether they're suspended or injured or whatever's going on. I actually did that once too many times and could not field a team at one point. That led to me releasing Amari Cooper at one point. I'll explain that story more in full one. I still won the league by releasing Amari Cooper. Insane story. But anyway, if you can grab a guy like Deshaun Watson the last few rounds and just say, hey, if he plays, he's going to be an asset to someone, even if it's not me. He has Josh Allen, team 5 here. He can dangle Deshaun Watson as trade bait if he comes back. Or if Watson's confirmed coming back week 8, he could say, all right, what if I try to move Josh Allen? Like, what if I need a real top running back to go with Cam Akers and someone really needs a quarterback? Like, are you likely to find a trade like that? Maybe not, but it's possible. So anytime you can pick up an asset that can really appreciate, I'm all for it. So John Watson in the 13th round, I like, but I would not do that while taking 3 quarterbacks. The only time I ever took 3 quarterbacks in the draft was my first year in fantasy, and I took Matt Schaub, Tony Romo, and Sam Bradford. Nice. Yeah, that did not go as planned. I think I ended up with Matthew Stafford as my quarterback that year.
Yeah, that sounds pretty rough. What I would do if I were team number 5, I would not take Baltimore in the 11th round or Joe Burrow here. I would go receiver, and then draft your defense in the 15th round. Like if your plan is to take Deshaun Watson as your second quarterback, and you draft Josh Allen that early, like what's Joe Burrow going to do for you outside of starting that 1 week? It's not like you're going to bench Josh Allen unless like the weather calls for like 40-mile-an-hour winds. And then at that point, you just pick up someone. There's no reason for you to have Joe Burrow on the team. But then again, maybe he wasn't even drafting at this point, so who knows? But so yeah, that's what I would do because the receiving depth on his team is weak. But I like his team otherwise.
Yeah, no, I do too. I think Team 5 did a pretty good job overall. Can't complain too much.
Okay, awesome. So that is it for our mock draft. And so please hit like, subscribe to our channel, comment below, share this video. That would mean a lot to us. I also have a link to our new merch store in the comments below, or in the like right below. You can probably link. You can find the link to the merch store. It's on Zazzle. So check that out if you'd like to help us out. Yeah. Otherwise, do you have anything to plug?
Yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Jacob Camenker. I'm verified on there right now. I officially was verified during this podcast, so I have a check mark next to my name, so you know it's me. I will be posting some of my golf picks for this week, betting content over at sportingnews.com. I'm also going to be working on some soccer bets for the Euro Cup. I've been doing pretty well there. So if you're really eager and looking to up your allowance for some NFL betting, this stuff should hopefully help you tide you over, and hopefully, fingers crossed, I'll continue to do well with the soccer, and maybe I'll hit on golf. I put in a lot of research. And if you have any questions for me, just reach out to me and find me on Twitter. Yeah, let's just keep enjoying this as fantasy season rolls around.
Yeah, so we're going to have a lot more fantasy content as the fantasy season approaches. It's still the middle of June. So I figured we're going to get to our season previews and stuff like that. And then roll into way more fantasy content in like the middle of July and August. On the site, waltzoffootball.com, we have lots of content. Our season previews are being posted now. We have one new team every day. Updated fantasy stuff, stock reports, rankings, and cheat sheets. And Charlie Campbell has his updated mock draft, and he's going to be posting early scouting reports. So check that out if you're eager to look into what's going to happen in the 2022 NFL draft. But yeah, otherwise, again, hit like, subscribe. All that would mean a lot to us. But otherwise, I will talk to you next week.
All right. Sounds good. Talk to you.